I heard a statistic that 82% of coaches fail and shut their doors within 2 years. And that just got me crazy. And I pivoted and I was like, how do I help coaches make more money? That they do such important work. How do we make this viable?
Welcome to another exciting show of transformation. Prosper with Wayne, creating wealth, health, and happiness in your life. With your host, life and business coach, author, entrepreneur, and lover of life, Wayne Sutton. Prepare to become excited, expand your beliefs, and truly prosper in all the areas of your life. Enjoy.
The OG coach, as she has on her website. Today, guys, you're in for a great treat. I'm here with Laura, and we're going to talk about coaching. We're going to talk about your signature self or your signature program. We're going to talk about how to succeed as a coach. If you are a coach, consultant, course creator, you're bringing value, this is a great place for you. And I know a lot of you in my audience, that's exactly who you are. So I'm glad to have you on board today. Another episode of Prosper with Wayne. Laura, good to have you on the call today.
Thank you, Wayne. Good to be here.
Take a moment and share with us, if you would, who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into, how that helps people in the coaching industry.
Sure. I'm Laura Berman Fortgang. I use the whole thing because Laura Berman is well known as a sex doctor, and that's not me. So I'm Laura Berman Fortgang. I've been a
Okay.
coach for 3 decades. So that's why I say an OG coach, because I was one of the founders of the International Coaching Federation, which is the biggest body that exists to put credentialing around this profession.
Yeah.
And I've spent my whole career coaching the public. And in the last 5 years, I heard a statistic that 82% of coaches fail and shut their doors within 2 years. And that just got me crazy. And I pivoted and I was like, how do I help coaches make more money? That they do such important work. How do we make this viable for people? So now I work with coaches, and my program's called the A-List Coach. And I specifically help them look at their body of work and identify, extract, and package their own method so that they're in a category all by themselves and get it out into the world.
So 30 years, I can appreciate that. I've seen so many and this is no disrespect. There's so many coaches that are 21 years old and they're coaching. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm in my 50s and I've been in the business world 3 decades as well, and coaching for the last 15. Really, as far as reaching out to people, what I love about what you're doing, and from what I have researched on you, is you're helping people become a better version of themselves in the industry. Um, Give us an example. Give us an example of like where, because I know a lot of our listeners, maybe they're not a coach. Maybe they are a coach, but how did people really become a better version of themselves? What is that, your methodology behind that, or what is the mindset, I guess?
Well, whether you're a coach or you're just a human, there's always a better version of ourselves around the corner. We know we have to overcome our own demons, those things that keep us from doing the things that we say we're going to do. And I
Yeah.
boil that down to making promises to yourself and keeping.
Just a quick break from the show. If you have ever thought about becoming a life coach, a certified life coach that can help other people and get paid well for doing it, this is how I've earned a majority of my income over the last 15 years. And I want to share with you exactly how to do it. We have a free book called Life Coach You. You can go to lifecoachlifestyle.com, download the book. That's going to come with some videos explaining how life coaching works, how to get certified with us at Inner Compass Coaching, and how we can help you build a business that pays you. So you can earn multiple 6 figures a year working from home, helping other people. So this is, again, something that may be for you. Go to lifecoachlifestyle.com, get your book. I'd love to talk with you personally, see if there's something we can help you with. And again, I'll go further into it inside the book and through some emails. Let's get back to the show.
Them, because when you keep a promise to yourself, you feel great and you walk out into the world with that energy of like, all right, I did what I said I'm going to do. What's the next thing I'm going to do that I said I'm going to do? And where most people
Mm,
get hung up is they want to write the novel, or they want to be a billionaire, or they want to, lose 100 pounds. And they don't start small. They want to do the big thing. And then they don't realize it's just a bunch of small steps. So they quit
mm.
because they didn't make the big thing happen. So the better version of ourselves is in small bite-sized pieces, promises that you keep to yourself. And as you create better habits, you create better results.
That's so good. That's so good. A number of years ago, I worked with a coach, 20 years ago, and they told me what you just said, Laura. It was find one area that you can make a promise to yourself and keep it. And so, I mean, I had big ideas, and they kept, going back, something small. Because the way they explain is when your unconscious mind doesn't believe you, like I'm going to do this, and you don't do it, then it doesn't also believe you when you give it a bigger task or a bigger goal or a bigger dream. So you self sabotage. And so for me, it's like, well, I'm going to check the mail at my home every day at 4 o'clock. And remember, how silly is that? How is that going to make me successful? How is that going to make me a millionaire? How is that going to? But the answer was, well, can you do it every day? Every day. I'm like, of course not. I travel. I do this. Okay, then that's not a promise. So it was every day for 5 days or 7 days. I don't remember now. And so every day I had to set a timer. I literally had to leave a restaurant one time to go home to open the mailbox, and there was nothing in the mailbox. It just pissed me off. But I knew I'm training my brain. If I give my word, I'm gonna do it. And then I went back to the coach and I said I did it. And then we went to another level. So I've always remembered that. And I hear so few people talk about it until like you just did. So would that be an example, or would you have something a little more practical than checking the mail every day at 4 o'clock?
Usually it's around working out for people, or maybe it's their walk that they need to take every day, or it's making 10 sales calls, or it's sitting down and putting your butt in the seat and writing 500 words of that book that you say you're going to get out of you, right? So it's something doable and small. And when you keep your word to yourself, when you become someone you can rely on, you start realizing that it's not outside circumstances affecting your life, it's you. And so that's why it just builds a stronger muscle,
Mm.
literally and
Oh, yeah.
figuratively, for you to be self-reliant. Sure, ask for help where you need help, but um make it happen. Like I've written 6 books, 5 with major publishers and one quick one that I just put out myself. And I have a friend who's a very prolific author, and was struggling with my 4th or 5th book, and she was like, just do 500 words a day. And 500 words is not a lot. That's really not a lot. And I was like, I can do 500 words a day. So I'd sit down, and it's like, if you only wanted to do 500, I could walk away after 500. But because it was so doable, I was doing 1,500 or 2,000. And before you knew it, I had a book. So it's,
That's good.
it's a mind game, really. But like you said, if your subconscious mind doesn't believe the big thing, you've got to give it a smaller thing so that it will make it happen.
Yeah, that's really good. It's really interesting. Just before our interview, I looked and I had about 30 minutes. So I'm recording my audiobook and thought, hey, I'm going to do a chapter. That's what I said. I'm going to record one chapter per day. So it was either before this call or after this call, as long as it's done by midnight. That was my goal. It was my agenda. And I got it done. And so only had to make about 10 corrections. So I still had time, to get it done. But I'm glad you said that, because I teach people a lot. If you have an agenda, like, this will happen today. It doesn't matter how I feel. Going to exercise or going to whatever, as long as I'm going to do it. I put my mind that I'm going to do this, and that's something, a small promise I can make to myself every day. But let me ask you a question then, Laura. Like, what happens when people mess up? They blow it. Because we all fall short at times. I think too many people give up at that point. But what would your recommendation be for somebody that made a promise to themselves and they have just lied to themselves over and over and over?
Well, you get to start over again every minute. You know what I mean? So if we start
Right.
over tomorrow, start over an hour from now, start over. But also, like you said a very significant thing. You said, sometimes you don't feel like it. people are waiting to feel like it. And it
Yes.
really, that that has to be like taken out of your vocabulary. It's, think about when
Yeah.
you don't feel like going to the gym, but then you do, and then you feel great that you did. So it's really that the feeling follows action, not that action follows feeling.
That's really good.
So,
That's really good.
right. So feeling
Yeah.
follows the action, not action following the feeling. So it's not waiting for you to feel like it. It's you do it, and then you're going to feel good that you did it.
You
And
do
then
the
maybe you'll
work
do
and
the
then the
next thing.
dopamine. Yeah, yeah, you get that dopamine, serotonin going, and you literally anchor that. You're literally anchoring the what I call the brain juice, those brain chemicals, to an action. And that dopamine can be anchored to something positive or something negative. You might as well do it with something positive. So, but I like what you said. You get to start over every minute. Somebody that's, um, yeah, somebody that falls off they fall off the wagon, they can get back on and just continue on moving. So, 6 books, 5 with major publisher, 1 sounds like self-published. Tell us about, you know, if someone were to read one of your books, like what book do you recommend? And we're going to talk about other books here in a minute too, because I'm an avid learner, and I think most of my followers here are. But what's one of your books that you've recently published, or maybe published in the past, that's really a standout book for that you recommend to people?
Well, the book that really has been like my signature program is called Now What? 90 Days to a New Life Direction. So it's specifically for people who are trying to figure out what to do with their life. And
Hmm.
that's when I just, I had been working with people in 90-day fragments and helping them figure out in less than 90 days what they wanted to do with their life, even if they've been stuck for years. And I started studying myself, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, how do I get this result with people? And so I studied my own method and documented it, put beta testing groups together, had people testing out my theories, and, proved that I wasn't just making it up on the fly. There was some sense to it. So I call it the method in the madness. And so that book, Now What? 90 Days to a New Life Direction, that's like my most popular book. I have a TEDx talk with over 2 million views based on that book.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And for people that are following our podcast, we talk a lot about creating health, wealth, and happiness. All 3 of those areas, you've got to be intentional. You know not if you're not intentional about health. People can set up, I'm assuming, a 90-day game plan of how to become healthy, a 90-day game plan of how to build wealth, or build a financial plan, and happiness. I really believe comes back to again, what you said earlier, if you will literally make promises to yourself and keep them, you're happy if no one else cares.
Yeah, you
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 built your
will
own
find your
internal.
happiness quotient go up when you keep promises to yourself, no doubt. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's so good.
those are it there's so many outside factors that people look at to measure their success. When there's so many more that you could just bring into your own sphere of influence, your own control, and make yourself quite happy by keeping promises to yourself, no doubt, around health, wealth, and happiness.
Yeah. How did you get into, I know we're going to go back 3 decades, but how did you get involved in coaching and the certification program? Like, what was it? Was there a certain event in your life, or did you just, as a child, go, I can't wait to be a coach?
Nope. I set out to be an actor. Was a musical theater performer. My parents would not support that as a college course of study. So I went to college for communications, and then I went to New York City to pursue my dream to be on Broadway. And I gave myself 5 years to get an agent and, be a contender. And there I was at year 8. I had my union card. I worked professionally half the year, but I was waiting on tables. I was unhappy. And I just had an inkling to call an old mentor of mine, and he had become a coach, and I never had heard of such a thing. I didn't know he was a coach. And he was like, you should work with me. I can help you figure out what else you might want to do. And so I became a client. And within 2 years, I had like surpassed my own coach and was doing corporate work with coaching. And within 5 years, I had the success with the books. I was on Oprah. And so it really was this story of like, I thought I had failed. I was miserably upset about how my dream had not come true. And yet, ironically, I did more things that made an impact as a coach than I did as an actor. And in retrospect, part of why I really wanted to be an actor was to cause change from the stage, to have people have a theatrical experience, but make them think about their own life, or make them see characters on
Mm.
stage that inspired them to do something. So in a way, like I'm still performing. I still love to be on stage and do public speaking, but it now has much more of a sense of purpose and a direct impact.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so from waitress to Oprah, TED Talk, and now you're as an author, but you're helping people again make their best life. If you could go, excuse me, if you could go back a decade, if you could go back 2 decades, whatever it may be, what would you do different? I guess. What would you do different? And what would you tell your past self based on what you know now?
Um, let's see. That's a really good question. Just to be more patient. Like I mean,
Mm,
I've never done any, well, that's not true. I mean, I'm married to the same person for longer than I've had this career, and I've been doing this career for 30 years. So I've stuck with things. But previously,
yeah,
you know, I w- I kind of reinvent every 3 years. There's a new book or a new talk or a new way of doing business, So I guess if there were anything to say to my 20 years ago self is just, you know, settle. I don't mean settle like don't ask for the best, but I mean like calm down. It's all going to be fine.
that's good. That's really good. Yeah. I think what you said, reinventing every 3 years, I get that because, and I work with a lot of people in areas and I see them change. Well, AI is out now, so let's become an AI expert, or they jump from one area to another. Um, where do you see the coaching industry going? And I'm asking that because we do have now where people can, and for good or bad, they can do print on demand, there's so many things, artificial intelligence, even for people that are looking for answers. Well, a lot of times they would hire a coach, hire a consultant. A lot of times they're literally hopping on with me and my wife went to buy a an appliance for the home today. And what did we do after we talked to the salesperson? We put up ChatGPT and we got a lot of reviews and we got a lot of answers. And we're like, okay, this knows more than he does. But how do so where do you see the future of, I would say coaching, I'm gonna say coaching and personal development. Where do you see it going in the next decade?
Well, I mean, I do think AI is here, and AI is um influencing people in that you can say to you know chat gpt, help me write a book, help me write a talk, help me write, so a lot of the things that a lot of us do can be replaced by ai, but I think that it's not AI is not there on the human level. I think that people do want connection. People,
Sure.
do want an encouragement from a human and not a robot being like, "Yeah, that's really good." Um,
Yeah.
and I still think there's enough nuance to being human that we have relevance.
Yes. Yes. I agree. I tell people all the time there are things that AI will replace. There's jobs they'll replace. There's things that it'll do. At the same time, there's things that human to human connection has always been. And human to human, when we humanize people, that's what people want, friends. They don't want another chatbot. People are
And I
looking
hope
for
so.
real advice from people. Yeah, and so now as we look at artificial intelligence, I think it can be a great tool for helping us. As you said, here's my TED talk, or here's my book. You know, let's go, and I'm not going to say edit the book, but possibly proofread. Give me ideas.
Shit.
Do you see any redundancies in this book? What's happening here? Yeah.
I mean, the speed at
And
which AI can work is, we just can't ignore that. I mean, it's just pretty amazing, Um, I've put in one of my clients' resumes. I was like, make this more CEO centric, because he was very eclectic in his background, and yet he's been a CEO many times. I'm like, well, what if we made your resume more read like a CEO's resume instead of this CV of someone so artistic and so creative, just as an experiment. And, 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds, AI can do that. So it does save time, but I really hope we continue to use it as a tool and not as a replacement.
no, that's a good point. Very good point. So give us an example, if you would, of a client that you've helped that really, obviously I know you've worked with a lot of people in 30 years, but what's one, that you go, okay, this is where they're at, and this is where they're at now, and whether it was techniques or mindset or whatever, share with us I guess a impromptu case study here.
Sure, sure. So I worked with someone who had a private practice, who was making $50,000 a year. After 18 months, they were making $500,000 a year.
Mm,
Mindset was part of it. They were going for crumbs and they needed to go for the, gold goblet. They needed to go for the bigger contracts and they did. So it's personal growth and it's business growth and it's understanding negotiation in that case. And it was understanding what you could ask for. So there were business technical parts and then there was growing the person that needs to feel worthy of that. And
that's good.
and that probably in today's equivalent, she makes more than $1 million. But at the time, that was from 50K to 500K. Um, Also, in the last couple of years, I worked with someone who had been a leader in corporations, and they wanted to step out and be a consultant. And they started getting contracts, and then they came up with their own signature program based on their experience as a leader. And now she has a book, and she's on the speaking circuit. So it's about taking that dream and making it a reality, and sometimes it's the practical know-how, but most of the time it's just expanding your capacity for what you can create.
Yeah, that's good. So basically taking the intellectual property they have and basically shaping it into something that can be delivered to other people. Is that
Yeah, I
correct?
mean,
Or
that right. And when I came up with mine for my Now What program, I worked with the hypothesis of, like, I have to replace myself. Like, if I were to replace myself, if I were going to teach AI how to be me, what does it need to know? Like, what does this person need to know? What actions, insights, and knowledge do they have to have in order to create something that's repeatable and reliable? So it kind of
Hmm,
takes you more into the teaching realm than the coaching realm because, according to the International Coach Federation, coaching is asking more questions than giving answers. But when you're looking to scale a business, if you're the only one who can ask the questions, then you're staying in the dollars, hours for
yeah,
dollars model. And you want to scale by having intellectual property that you can create into product.
yeah. I'm really glad you said that because a lot of people have asked me, Wayne, can I really just ask better questions as a coach? And I'm like, yes, but there is a difference in coaching and consulting. And you need to really learn how to blend those. You've got to have skill, asking people better questions is so powerful. But there's times when they don't have the answer no matter how you ask it.
Right.
And so
Sometimes they
you've
need
got to
you to
be able
tell
to
them the answer. Right.
yeah, sometimes they need somebody to tell them the answer or point them where they can find the answer. Absolutely. So I have to ask, just out of curiosity, you from waiting tables to becoming a coach and then Oprah, like, so how was that experience? I've met with people before that have been on other shows. Did Oprah really boost your career? Did the TED Talk boost your career? But also, just tell us about Oprah.
To answer quickly, the TED Talk did more for making money than the Oprah Show did. The it definitely is up there with one of my top three experiences in life, being on the Oprah Winfrey Show. I left there with my impression of Oprah Winfrey intact. So that's always nice that if, they say don't meet your idols, but there was a good experience. I had this moment before I went on stage, and we were live. We were taping live with 4 days notice. So it was not a comfortable scenario. Producer said to me, she doesn't like a weak guest. So don't be quiet. Make sure you talk. And so that wasn't a problem for me. I was prepared for that. So, the first segment went well. And then in the commercial break, she was busy talking to people, had her back to me. And I felt like something wasn't quite right. So it took everything I had to tap Oprah Winfrey on the shoulder and go, did I step on your toes? Are we good? Is everything okay? And then she just like broke into like my best girlfriend. She was high-fiving me and chatting with me on every commercial break after that, followed me backstage afterwards and wrote down something I said in her quote book. And it was just like that moment where you could have been so intimidated by somebody like that. And I was like, I'm just going to speak my truth. And it broke the ice and, made for a great experience. The only
That's so
bummer
good.
was
That's
that
so
they
good.
told me they'd have me back and they called me for years, like for 2 years. Oh, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do that. And never came to be. And it was so frustrating.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I've learned from doing speaking engagements and wow, was hey, we'll have you back. Is now I pull out my phone and go, yes, let's set a date right now.
Great
Book a
idea.
meeting from a meeting. Book a meeting from a meeting is so important if you can do it. Um, so what is? I mean, I've got to ask you though. Is what's one thing that I guess you would say, happens behind the scenes that you wish clients could see? Because coaching and working with people, it can be extremely, extremely fulfilling. But there's more to it than just jumping on a Zoom call or a phone call. There's a lot of behind the scenes work. What is something that happens behind the scenes in your business that you wish clients knew or that they could see?
People, I often say that, we're not like lawyers who, if I talk about you for 15 minutes at the water cooler, I bill you, so coaches
Yeah,
don't charge by the minutes that they think about you. They do, and most of us charge a nice handsome fee as a retainer. And we may not speak to you that often. Maybe it's once a week, maybe it's 2 times a month. But the behind the scenes part that people don't see is that our clients are with us in our mind all the time. Like
yes,
I might think of something for you in the shower. I might be driving down the highway and get an idea for you, or I see an article that reminds me of you, or I'm reading something of yours and editing it, even though that isn't part of our contract. So
sure.
I just think that people don't realize that, we're very invested in the people that we're with. It's not just, oh, I take your money and the
Mm.
meter's running and, I only think about you for the 30 minutes that we're talking.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I think that's very, very important. And I'm glad you said that because that is a huge part of working with people in general. That's the humanization. That's the human to human. It's not AI where the AI is waiting for another chat prompt,
Right.
for you to another prompt. It is it is that involvement where you really, and if you really care, and this is for, I'd say this for everybody out there, if you really care about others, then you will keep your consciousness open. You will be in that place to receive and help other people. If it's just a paycheck, then that'll show as well. So you really got to find people, and not just coaches, but just I look at business partners, I look at my spouse, I look at my children, people I really, really care about, the people that I'm going to be there. My mind does go back to them over and over and over again. So that's really good. Um, so you've coached, you've waited tables, you've done a lot, author. Um, So outside of that world, like what is something that really brings you? Are you being coached by other people? Do you what is your world outside of helping other people? Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I have a coach for sure. I'm always investing in myself and my business. I have 3 rescue animals. I have 3 children. I have 1 husband. often, I've been this summer was really too hot to do this, but in the last couple of summers, I do furniture work. Like I take an old piece of furniture that nobody wants and turn it into something beautiful. So I always
Mm,
like to have some kind of creative pursuit. I'll occasionally do a musical just to revisit the old pipes and see if I still have them. So I just try to
yeah, yeah.
keep the creative juices flowing, whatever it takes.
That's so good. And how about books? You've written books. I know this. Every author is a reader. If you don't read, if you don't, you're never going to write. What's some of your favorite books? Well, maybe what's a book you'd recommend? I don't know, fiction, nonfiction. Like, what's a great book for you?
Um, in the recent past, I joined a book club with a bunch of women because I never read fiction. I always read self-help or, other books that
Same
have to do
here.
with my
Yeah.
business. So I was like, no, I want to read fiction and I want to, be in a book club. And um maybe your listeners know Elizabeth Gilbert from Eat, Pray, Love, but her two novels are extraordinary pieces of writing. You could call them women's stories, probably more women's, for women than for
Yeah.
guys, but one is called The Signature of All Things, and the other one's called City of Girls. And her writing, just the way she describes a scene or gets into the personhood of her characters, it just really takes you to another world. And I'm also just blown away by that talent when someone can have that talent of having you read a book where you just don't want to put it down and you're enveloped in the world that they've created for you. That is such a beautiful talent and skill, and I love to study that. So those
It's
are
so good. A number of years ago, I wrote a book 15 years ago. It's the first book I published. It's a ministry book. It was How in Hell Can I Change? But before I hired a book coach. And one of the recommendations was, hey, this is going to be a nonfiction work, but you need to read fiction. And for me, it was like, I don't have time to waste reading fiction books. But I did. I picked up everything from Stephen King, Ted Decker, and different ones. And I read, then I realized Stephen King's not how I want to write. So let me pick up some other books. And I picked up a number of them. And what it did was help me understand. And so my actual first book was a fiction with nonfiction principles.
cool.
So it was a story
So it
of,
was a parable.
um, it was a parable. It was a parable, absolutely. But then I would go into this is what you need to do, and my next book that I'm gonna write is gonna be the same way. But to get that, you have to really go back and you have to know how to enjoy, a fiction book. And I think a lot of people miss that. And again, whether it's doing furniture refinishing, I love that. I have friends here that do it. But really finding that something to get outside of the head of a coach, consultant, and really just take care of yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah, to
So
just be in that abandon that has nothing to do with anything, but it exercises your mind in a way that brings you fresh back to your work fresh.
it does. I went to an art class a number of years ago. It was actually at church. And they were like, we're gonna do this prophetic art. You're listening to the voice of God and you're painting out what you see. Well, I show up and there's no instruction. Nobody gave me any instruction at all. And I'm like, I thought we had instruction on it. No, no, no. Took me a while to get acclimated, but when I got into it, it was like nothing else mattered for those 2 hours. And that's really was so powerful. It was healing to me in some areas of my life. And I probably need to get back to it. But um,
That's why we
there's
need art.
obstacles.
That's why we need art.
Yes, yeah, the creativity is just it's amazing. So what is the biggest obstacle that you've had to overcome, I guess, when it can be in business or life or anything? Because I know when I listen to our listeners, they are here to learn and to grow and to get the edge really in life. But we all have constraints, bottlenecks, we have life happens. Is there an obstacle that you wouldn't mind sharing that maybe you've had to overcome and maybe a lesson that you learned from
Well,
that?
I think I still work to overcome it. I mean, I'm not a positive thinker by nature. I tend
Oh,
to
really? You're a pessimist.
I tend to worry. I tend to, think of the worst case scenario. So I've always had to overcome my own programming, just like a lot of my clients. They say you
Mm,
teach best when you most need to learn, right? So I've come a long way, but I still have to battle my own demons. I'm just honest about that.
yeah. So how do you battle that? How do you battle the, oh no, there's something on me that's not supposed to be here. Is this cancer? Is this crazy? It's like, oh no, this happened. How do you overcome
Well, I
a
I catch
negative mindset?
myself because I don't and I don't even really know if I believe in positive thinking. I'm too New York for that. I'm like very black and white. So I call it I call it productive thinking. It's like, well, if I'm walking around saying it's not going to work, is that productive? Like, how's that going for you? So that's not working. So I always think of it as like, is this productive? And I don't like to waste my time. So that's how
Mm,
I get myself out of it more quickly. It's like, this isn't productive. It's not about walking around saying, I am a millionaire. I am a millionaire. No, I'm working on that 7-figure business, or I'm creating the opportunities by making 10 phone calls today, or, whatever the case may be. So, um,
yeah,
it's
that's
really
good.
like looking at what's more productive than going down the negative rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's so good. Reminds me of a funny story. I can't even believe I'm gonna share this, but I will. A number of years ago, I'm literally like in the shower and I feel something. And it's like a little knot. And I'm like, okay, well, men get breast cancer, sure, but it's usually women. This was not internal, was it? Was like a little, maybe a pimple. I don't know. But I knew it wasn't. And then it gets a little bigger and it's a little sore. And I'm like, oh no. And so I'm freaking out, I'm growing a third nipple or I'm got cancer or what, and I don't know what to do. And instead of just handling the situation and going to the doctor, the dermatologist, I wait and I wait and I wait. And so when I finally go to the dermatologist, she looks at it for maybe 3 seconds under her little eyepiece, and she's like, "Okay, that is a term." Okay, so I'm like, "Okay, gotcha." In layman's term, what is that? And she said, "Oh, it's nothing to worry about. Just scar tissue, skin tissue, blah blah blah," and explains it. And I said, "Hold on, I've waited over a year to find out there's nothing wrong with me. You looked at it for 3. Can you look one more time? Just humor me." And she chuckled and she looked. She probably charged me twice for 2 diagnostics, but she looked at it again and said, "Okay, this is what it is," and told me exact word for word with her sarcasm. And I was like, "What do we do?" She said, "We can cut it out. You can leave it alone." I'm like, "Just leave it. Just leave it." Um, but that's so, that negative thinking, like, "Oh no, what is this? Is this going to hurt me? Is this?" We do have to go, wait a minute. That wasn't productive thinking. Productive thinking would have been, let's get a specialist to take a look at this. You know,
Within a
what
couple of
I
weeks and
coached,
have it over with.
yeah, within a week is done and everything's great. Or if it had been something dangerous, could have handled it a lot better. So I love that, what you said, positive thinking versus productive thinking. A friend gave me a book years ago, to Power of Positive Thinking. It was one of the original. I mean, we're talking way back.
I know
They
that book.
found,
It's fat.
yeah, they found it in a used bookstore, and they said, "Wayne, I saw this and thought of you." And I read part of it, and I was like, "Well, I can." And my comment to them was, "Well, I can run my head into a wall every day and be positive about it. It doesn't give me anything that is going to help me." So productive thinking, I love that. So a big takeaway. Big takeaway. Thank you.
Awesome.
Mm. Okay, so I really, really enjoyed this. I'm going to use a line that Oprah probably said. We'll have you back on the show. I'd love to jump into
Got
one
my
of.
calendar. Let's go.
Okay, we're going to book a meeting from a meeting. But what I really would love to do is really get into like one of your books and some of the techniques and things that people could use to go to the next level. Um, so let me ask you, number one, how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for them to find out about you?
The best way to find out about me is to Google my name, Laura Berman Fortgang. If you only remember the Laura Berman, you'll see the other one
The
and
sex.
you'll see
Yeah,
me.
the sex
Right,
part.
you'll find me. So that's the easiest way. And we're also going to leave behind a free download for you about
Yes.
how to create a signature program. So look in the show
Yeah.
notes
That'll
too.
be in the show notes. That will be in the show notes. So definitely. And if you're watching this, you know, guys, you hear me say it all the time, hit that subscribe button. So when we have Laura back and other guests, that you'll be sure to get all of the notifications. Now, what I want to do is ask you one more question. And I ask every guest this, and that is health, wealth, and happiness. You get to choose health, wealth, or happiness. What's one takeaway or one piece of advice that you would give for our listeners?
I'm going to go with health.
Mm.
Um, keep your promise to yourself every day. Make it so small that you can keep it. So if it's the walk or it's the no sugar or it's the drink the water, make it accessible. And once you do 7 days, you're going to feel like a different person.
Oh, I can. We have another episode coming up with Dr. Bradley that's going to talk about that exactly. So I'm so glad you said that. Very, very good, Laura. Hey guys, go into the show notes, download her resource, and of course, Google her and Not the Sex Doctor, and learn more about how to create your signature series, your signature life, really. And if you're a coach, consultant, course creator, obviously check her out. Laura, thank you for jumping on and being here with us today. This has been a great, really, again, we will book a meeting from a meeting. I look forward to having you back on. Really picked up some great, insights here. And I think I think our clients have as well. So thanks again for being on.
Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks for joining us again at Prosper with Wayne. Be sure to subscribe to us for more exciting, life-changing episodes. Go today, in fact. Go now to prosperwithwayne.com and enter your email for our exclusive newsletter and other resources. God bless and go prosper.